Hello, this is ModelOmega, and welcome to my beginner's guide to Thracia 776. Starting off, the first chapter, Chapter 1. This is a pretty simple chapter even by 776's standards, and it, along with the next one, exists more to just get you acquainted with many of the gameplay elements I discussed in my intro. But before we speed off, let's meet the units here you start with, and what you can expect from them. Leif is the Lord of 776, but if you're coming here from any game post-Binding Blade, check your expectations at the door, because Leif is easily the second worst Lord in the entire series, only just above Roy. His stats and growth are terrible even by this game's standards, and thanks to a latest promotion and lack of combat ability, it's likely that he'll set out a lot of actual fighting in chapters. Leif does have a couple of saving graces though. His light sword is a powerful weapon that can also attack at range using magic, and it gives Leif a plus 10 bonus to luck, has 60 uses, and it can be used like an item to heal all his health, though that will also deplete a use of the weapon. But keep in mind that at his base build, the light sword will drop Leif's speed to 0. Yikes. He also has the continue skill, giving you a % chance based on your speed of performing an extra attack, which you may recognize as being similar to the adept skill from the Tellius games. Unfortunately, as the Lord character, you kinda have to use Leif, and he will usually be a liability. Othin is an amazing axe fighter, possibly the best axe user in the entire series. Strange given that 776 is the first game to actually balance the weapon triangle. His growths are still pretty bad, but he does have good bases and many excellent features. His skill Wrath works very differently from the other incarnations in Fire Emblem. 776's Wrath operates as such. The first attack of any counterattack will always crit if it manages to hit. This is absolutely insane in most situations, and can make mincemeat of the enemy in the right circumstances. However, it requires that you be attacked first, making it incompatible with the skill Ambush, and you still need to dodge or survive the initial attack, so Wrath users need good speed and defense to make it reliable. Othin also has his own personal weapon that he will acquire very early in the chapter, the Pooji Axe. It's essentially a hybrid hand and killer axe, being ranged while also having an extra 30% crit chance, as well as having the highest accuracy of any axe in the game. It may only be 1 point of might higher than an iron axe, but all these features turn Othin into a critical hit machine. All these make Othin a great unit despite his statistical shortcomings. Definitely try to use him. Havon is statistically speaking almost identical to Othin, but with different extra items. He has Ambush, which, just like Vantage from the other games, allows the user to always have the first attack. In this case, it works just like Path of Radiance's version, meaning you don't need to proc a rate or be at below half HP. He doesn't have an awesome personal weapon like Othin, but his PCC is higher at the level of 4. This is completely personal, but I've always found 4 to be the value where PCC really creates high amounts of crits, though not this early with Havon's lowish skill and the lack of any weapon with a crit bonus. However, he will acquire a Brave Axe in this chapter that will prove useful, and as a bonus, it isn't a locked weapon. In fact, it's just D rank, meaning almost anyone with an axe rank can use it. Havon is definitely not as good a fighter as Othin, but he is still a good unit. You won't lose anything by using him, but don't be afraid to drop Havon if his stats refuse to go anywhere. One more thing to note about Havon and Othin is that they're not fighters per se, they are axe fighters, which in this game are basically axe-wielding mercenaries, and they actually promote to the hero class, not warrior. This loyal Lance Knight is the first cavalry unit you get, and he is among the best, the biggest reason being his personal weapon, the Brave Lance. Given to him by Suan back in Genealogy of the Holy War, it boasts high might, plus 10 crit, plus 10 bonus points of luck, and the Brave Weapon double attack. As a last note, Finn has the Prayer skill, which works in a similar method to Miracle from other Fire Emblems. Basically, if an enemy attack would kill the user, they essentially gain an additional evade chance equal to 3 times their luck stat, so with the Brave Lance's luck boost, it can make Finn nigh invincible. Finn is definitely someone you should use, and he will even help just by being deployed since he has a leadership star. But remember, he's already level 7, so he'll gain EXP much slower in the first couple chapters, so I recommend you try spreading it out a bit first. Avel is the Jigen of 776, and is one of the most intriguing. Access to the Fire Sword and high stats would let her murder almost anything for quite a large amount of the game, except Avel will leave your party in Chapter 3 and rejoin 1 chapter before the end of the game, where her once great stats will be extremely pitiful, and with growth rates comparable to the original Jigen, they won't go anywhere in the first place. Avel is invaluable to get you out of tight situations for the short time you have her, but aside from that, she is the very definition of EXP thief. One additional note is that Avel has plot armor until she leaves, so if you need to, you could take her weapons and have her serve as a decoy in any situation if you need it. So now that you're acquainted with your starting party, let's proceed with the chapter. Start by sending Othin down to the lone house on the bottom. His father lives there, and by visiting the place with him, he'll get his Poogie axe, so don't forget to do that before you complete the chapter. Move the rest of your team to the entrance of the village and start picking off the enemy units. At the start of your third turn, you'll get 3 new allies, so here's a quick prep. This warrior is 776's other Jigen, but he's around for a lot longer than Avel and will henceforth be much more useful. His base stats will carry him very far into the game, even with his almost non-existent growths, and he will almost always be a good filler unit if you need an extra fighter. Dagda has the skill Charge, which is a true double-edged sword. Essentially, when ending a round of combat, if you have a higher attack speed and HP than your opponent, then you'll perform another round of attacking. This works great for attacking and capturing, but it also means you take twice the number of attacks from bows, ballista, siege tomes, essentially anything you can't counter. Tanya is your first archer, and is the first of what I jokingly call the bad base stat early game archer dude or dudette, which every Fire Emblem since has still kept. And snipers are my favorite units in this series. Anyway, Tanya's biggest problem is her low build and even lower build growth. Her impressive speed will mean nothing when she is weighed down by every bow in the game at base, and her low strength and PCC of 2 are not enough to make up for this by a long shot. Adding to this is that bow units can't capture at all, which combined with 776's higher emphasis on the enemy phase makes bows very unoptimal in many situations. She can do chip damage in the first few chapters and supports Othin, but drop her off as soon as you can. Marty is single-handedly the worst unit in the game, and one of the worst units in Fire Emblem history. He starts with a flat 0 in speed and skill, and those stats will never be going anywhere. Literally, the only 2 stats Marty has are defense and build, but he won't be capturing anything if he can't freaking hit it, and is killed when he's doubled on the counterattack. Just use Marty as a pack mule and holder for captured units. Maybe if you need to, he might be able to do a bit of damage with his steel axe, but that's all you're going to get from him. Now that you have your full team for the chapter, continue on to the village and visit the houses for a vulnerary, an iron sword, and an HP ring. But remember that the house on the far right needs to be visited by Havan, and it is where he'll get his brave axe from his sister. By the way, vulneraries are 776's standard healing items, and they are exactly the same as elixirs, which means they replenish all the user's HP, so if you can, try and have any unit hold on to them when you get around to acquiring them. And no, having essentially infinite elixirs does not make this game very much easier. Try to capture as many of the units as you feel safe to do so, especially some of the soldiers for their short lances and javelins, so Finn doesn't need to waste his brave lance on them. Any access you acquire you can sell to the shop for money and extra space for your units, since you won't be able to access your supply until the end of Chapter 3. The HP ring should be given to Leaf right the hell away. Without its plus 7 HP, the pirates in the next chapter will 2-shot him, and he needs to be able to get EXP for some difficult upcoming levels. When it comes to engaging the boss, I like to have Dagda try to capture him with his hammer, but don't fret if the boss suicides on the counterattack. Thrones in 776 provide a ludicrous plus 10 defense and 30 avoid, so the only other way you're gonna kill this boss is with Leaf or Avel's magic swords, and trust me, the EXP isn't worth the uses in those weapons. When you're done, put everyone's inventory in order, and have Leaf capture the throne to end this short and simple chapter. Coming up next, another straightforward chapter, and also the last one you're gonna see for a long, very long time. Right, so just at the end here, I want to give a quick credit to 2 websites that both really helped me in researching for this, and will likely help you in your playthroughs when I'm not around, or if you just need a clarification on a stat or a chapter. For basically getting all of the units, stats, items, ranks, etc., I used serenusforest.net in its Thracia 776 page. This provides comprehensive detail on recruitment, on accessing guide-in chapters, the character stats, their growths, their supports, all that sort of stuff. For the more chapter-specific details, like layouts, including that map I put at the beginning, I used Fire Emblem World of Dragons. It is predominantly a Spanish site, and most of it is in Spanish, but there are some English translated pages, unless you just speak or read Spanish, in which case this doesn't matter at all. But the entire 776 page, at least in its chapter breakdowns, is in English, so don't worry about that. Trust me, that site is amazing. It definitely helped me out in my latest playthrough and taught me some things that I didn't even know about the game that I'll be able to relay to you. So check those two websites out if you need them. And if you have any questions at all, I would recommend checking out the Reddit of Fire Emblem for asking questions. Not just because I'm there and I'll be able to answer your questions directly and probably easier than in the comments here, but all of the users there are genuinely helpful people and they'll be able to help you out as well. Anyway, this has been ModelOmega, and thank you very, very much for watching and sticking through this whole thing. I'll see you later.